Hey guys, we're getting informal today and I'm showing you the reality of what is my desk. It's ridiculous. But I'm just in one of those moods where I don't really care. So it's a really gray, gross, rainy day outside and I decided to fool around with some gouache and some black watercolor paper and I painted this and it ended up turning out way better than I anticipated, especially halfway through the process. I was like, this is not working, but it did. So this video is me showing you how I painted this. And I would say it's a tutorial, but like I said, I honestly didn't feel like I knew what I was doing the majority of the video. I'm very used to watercolor. I used to paint with acrylic a long time ago, but not for like stuff like this. And so gouache is completely different and it's definitely something I have to get the hang of because it's an opaque medium. But one thing that I did learn that I really like about gouache, especially through painting this, is that because it's water-based and it can be reactivated by water again. So watercolor, when you lay it down and it dries, you can't really reactivate it on your paper again. This you can. Like if I were to just take water and a brush and scrub it, all that paint would come up and it would be an entire mess. So you gotta be careful, but at the same time, like blending out lines that maybe were a bit too harsh before, it's really helpful that you can reactivate it. So that's a little tip going into this. But yeah, I'm really impressed with how this turned out. And if you guys enjoy the video, let me know. But for now, let's just jump right in and I'll show you how I painted this pumpkin. Okay, so today we are gonna be painting with gouache on black paper. So for some reason last night, I was dreaming about gouache and today I thought I would give it a try to paint on black paper with it because I forgot I had this. So I got this Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press black watercolor paper from Legion Paper a while ago, and I tried to paint with watercolor on it. This is actually not bad, but I found every other color besides red. For some reason, my cadmium reds and cadmium oranges are very, very vibrant colors, even on white paper, but on black they worked really well. Other colors, not so much, like the pink was really washed out, so I wasn't a fan of this paper. But after dreaming about gouache last night, I remembered that I had this paper and I thought that I would give it a try to paint on it today. So, like I said, this is black watercolor paper from Legion Paper. It is 140 pound cold press, and yeah, let's just jump into it. So I have this paper. It's not a block, it's a pad. I think I got it off Amazon. And then for my gouache, I'm gonna be using my Winsor Newton designer gouache, which I've only used like maybe once or twice. But the colors I'm gonna be using, they are yellow, permanent yellow deep, oxide of chromium, primary red, yellow ochre, and zinc white. I don't know if I'm gonna be using any other colors, but these are just the colors that I have on my palette right now. And we are gonna be painting a pumpkin because if you don't know me, and you haven't seen all of my videos, I really like painting pumpkins. And it's an easy, simple shape that we've practiced before. And to be honest, gouache is not my forte. It is not something I feel very confident and strong in. And I just wanted to try and start with an easy subject. So that's why we're painting a pumpkin today. So I have my gouache, I have my paper. I'm just gonna be using my watercolor brushes. You can use watercolor with gouache, just make sure you rinse them out thoroughly because they are reactivated by water. They will not ruin your brushes, but just rinse them thoroughly. And then I'm going to be sketching out my pumpkin first with a pencil and then using my eraser. And the picture that I'm using today is just this picture of a pumpkin that I found on Pinterest. I will also link it below. It's a photograph and let's just do it. Okay. So I'm going to start by sketching by looking at my photograph, and I'm going to do it in sections like how I paint. Okay, so we're going to do one little curvy curve here. Actually, I don't want it too big. Like that. And then another curvy section over here. I don't know why I'm so nervous to do this, but I really am. This is not my strong medium, so I find this really intimidating, but we're gonna do it anyway. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue to sketch. Do another one over here. So a little tip when sketching, this is just how I sketch. So for this picture, for example, the way I look at it is I'll start with like one section here. This is this section I started off with. Hope you can see this in my, yes. And then I look at the section next to it. Is it the same width? Is it the same height? Do I need to draw it a little bit above or below? That's kind of how I sketch things, is I look at one part, sketch that one little part first, and then look at the next part in relation to that first part that you did. So I started with this area, then I started with this area. I realized this is kind of a straight line, slightly curved. This one is a bit rounder. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that's just kind of how I approach my drawings. You could always trace if you wanted to. But yeah, so just gonna go with it. And it doesn't have to be exact, right? We're using it as a reference. So this next one is a bit below. But one thing I want to try and get right with this painting that we're just about to do is the shading. I want to try and make it look a little bit more realistic. I'm really used to loose paintings, right? I typically do loose watercolor paintings, but right now I really want to try to make it look a bit more realistic. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm saying that and then it's gonna not look realistic at all and then I'll be embarrassed. But I don't know. Shading with gouache, which is a very opaque medium, is very different. So we're gonna see how this goes. Like that. And then back here, you can't really see that curve. And then we have this cool stem that comes right out like that. Okay, there we go. And I'll just have some back there. Okay, so there is our sketch. See if we like it. It's all right. It's not bad, not great. It's fine. And because, like I said, gouache is an opaque medium, we don't have to erase our pencil lines. We can paint right over them. Okay, so I'm going to use my yellow ochre as kind of like a base color. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit of red. I wanna red it up a little bit. Maybe the yellow too. This is so different than watercolor. It really kind of messes with me a little bit. So I'm just trying to create my base color here for my orange pumpkin. Okay, and I'm gonna start by painting each section. See how opaque that is? And then another thing that kind of confuses me about gouache is that when I'm working with watercolor, to make color like spread out a bit more, I add more water on my brush. I'm just used to dipping it in, adding more water and doing, that's how you spread it out. But when you add more water to gouache, it starts to get a bit thinner and a bit more transparent. So you got to be careful you're not adding too much water, because then it won't be opaque. Does that make sense? I think so. So here's our first, see, I keep dipping into my water. I don't know. We could do layers if we need to. So there's our first one. I'm gonna leave just a little bit of black space in between the sections. Like, I wonder if I just need to use a lot more paint instead of water. Like, I don't know if I've put enough paint in my palette for this, you know? Watercolor, you just add more water. I think gouache, you have to add more paint, but I feel like that's so much paint to be using. I don't know. I don't know. I love how I call my tutorials, and yet a lot of the time I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, keep going, just keep going. I keep dipping in my water to add more, because I find that the paint can get a little stiff and dry. So I think that's why I keep trying to add more water. Okay. And I think I'll go over these little black lines later with some darker color. I just kind of want to separate them for now, the little sections for now, just so I can see where I'm painting. Okay, so there I've laid down my color. I feel like I could add a bit more orangey to it. Like it looks a bit more on the yellow side. I don't know. Oops. Okay, so now I'm gonna start adding in my shadow areas, I think. So the darker parts. So this side of the pumpkin is a bit darker. So to make a darker color, I'm gonna add green to my orange here. Add a bit more orangey to make it more of a brown, because the shadow is brown. Let's see if that's dark enough. That's not dark enough. I hope I'm not messing this up. Okay, so that's darker. There we go. Okay, and I'm gonna start, adding this brown to this side of the pumpkin. And I will try and blend it a bit better. Just trying to lay down where these dark bits are. Okay, this side. And then I'm gonna go over that little black line. I gotta figure out how I want to blend this out. And I might have to add some black paint after to make it even darker in these cracks. So I'm just going over those little black lines now to kind of separate where the shadows are. And then it's a little bit shadowy down here. Okay. I don't know how this looks. Okay. It's basically a brown pumpkin. Let's be honest here. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna wash off my brush. I'm gonna try and blend it out. I'm gonna get a bit more yellow going. Wash off my brush. Where's my yellow? I feel like I need a brighter yellow. Let's try primary yellow. I'm gonna add a little bit of that in there. My watch is telling me to breathe. Do you think that they feel my stressed feelings about gouache? Possibly, maybe, yeah. Okay, so let's add a little bit of, what's it called? Yellow ochre, and then a little bit of orange. Let's get this brighter orange color going. Okay, let's see how that looks. I'm just gonna kind of get where the highlights would be. I feel like it's a little too intense, but I mean, I don't know. We'll just go with it for now. Okay, so you know when I was like, oh, maybe I'll just make it, I want to make it realistic. I don't think that's the way I'm going with this. So we'll see how this turns out. Oh God. And I also have to remember that gouache dries lighter, I think it is, than when it's dry. Sorry, focus. So you can see like right here, this orange is very light. So I'm just kind of adding another mid-tone just to kind of blend in between. I don't know. I really don't know what I'm doing. The way this light part has dried is really throwing me off. I don't know. I thought it would be darker. Okay, I'm gonna try and add this kind of base color again, get it all wet, and then try and blend it together, like those darker bits. This has turned from a tutorial to an experiment, my friends. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Okay, so my orange, my mid-tone orange is wet. Let's get that darker brown in there again. And now try and blend it together. And I feel maybe if I start adding a bit of more highlight, like blending it while it's still wet. So let's add some of this zinc white. So I've heard zinc white is better for mixing. I'm just mixing it all like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna get where those highlights are gonna be. They're right here. I'm just gonna lay down the color first. Then I'm gonna wash off my brush and try and blend it in a bit more. So this whole side of the pumpkin is a lot lighter. Okay. Right there. And then up here a bit, and up here a bit. Okay, let's wash off the brush. Okay, because our paint is still wet. I'm gonna dry it off. I'm gonna see if I can blend it out a bit better. Yeah. Dry off my brush again. Blend it. Okay, that's a bit better. So different than watercolor. I've been doing watercolor for way too long. Okay, just blending out that wet paint. Okay. And I think I want to go back and do a little bit more depth in the darker parts. So I'm going to grab some black. Just a little bit. Okay. To our brown over here. Okay, maybe a bit more red. I feel like I need a bit more yellow. just orange in general. Okay, there's a nice dark brown. So let's try and add a bit more. Is it even dark? Can't tell. Okay, let's try and do it with our smaller brush. I'm grabbing my size 2 now, and I'm gonna go over those sections where it'd be the darkest. And then while it's wet, I'm hopefully, with my damp brush, gonna blend it out. Okay, trying to blend it out with the wet paint that's kind of beside it. I don't even know if this is working. Someone jump through the screen and tell me if that looks okay. This is so nerve-wracking. Then I'm gonna grab my medium orange again. Oops. Oh no, I think it was the brown, wasn't it? I don't know what it was. Oops, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, dry, wash and dry off your brush and then just blend it. What am I doing? I can't tell if this is working or not. Also, with my lights, it's super shiny and I'm finding it really hard to see. I don't know. Okay, let's keep adding some of the darkness. It's mostly at the top and at the bottom. Like that. Wash, dry. Trying to blend it out a bit. Okay. Let's add in some highlights, like uber highlights. No, let's do the stem. Let's do the stem. So I'm gonna grab some green, this like little greenish brown color that we kind of had here. And the stem's kind of twisted, but I'm gonna start off with this light color first over the whole stem. And then we will add in the shadows of the twisties, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't, but it's fine. Okay, like that. And I don't know if I should wait for it to dry, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for it to dry first. And now let's add in some highlights with our white. So I'm gonna mix a bunch of white with this peachy color, and I'm gonna just start painting in highlights. So there's a lot of sun over here hitting it. Like that. That's a little lighter right there. I'm gonna use my brush to kind of blend that part out. Maybe I'll go back and try again after. Okay. And then over here. And back here. I don't know. Add a bit more highlights there. I didn't realize how hard gouache was, which is funny because I've painted with acrylic before, but I don't know. It just feels different to me. I really don't know. I feel like it needs to be a bit more orangey. I wonder if I should blend it or not. I don't know. Let's try and blend it out. Like that. I need a little bit more darkness over here. I'm gonna add a little bit more darkness besides the highlights. Then blend it out a bit. Wonder if I should blend out those highlights a bit more. Maybe. They look a little streaky. Oops. Now I'm going to add some straight white. Okay, now I'm going to lighten this color up for the stem, and I'm going to do a light line up this way. That. Okay, oops. Okay, and then maybe a bit darker. So let's get a bit more brown in there. And then we'll go in right darker right beside it. Like that. Just gonna try and do a little bit of textured lines. Okay. Now I can't tell if this looks good or not. It's just weird. It's so not what I'm used to. So I really have no idea. I wonder if I wanted to add like a dark shadow underneath. It's weird because it's black paper, right? Add a little bit of brown to it. I'm just gonna add water and just kind of blend it out. Damn it. I'm just gonna dry brush it to get that kind of texture there. And then I wonder if I should add any like really dark black parts. Like just a little bit in between some of those sections. Like that. I don't know, guys. Like that. And there you go. I don't know. I don't know. Or okay. I think I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead. But there you go. There is my pumpkin painting. So I actually continued to fool around with my painting after I finished recording. I find that gouache can be difficult because while it's drying, it dries matte and it looks different than when wet. So when you have some wet parts and you have some dry parts, you don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. So I just kept playing with it. I added more highlights. I added darker parts. I even re-wet, almost the whole section. I created more shadow on that one side of the pumpkin, the darker side, and it ended up looking a lot better. I am so pleased with how it turned out, and I'm also pretty shocked, but it's definitely something I had to play around with and get used to because it was not working the way I'm used to working my paint. So all in all, it was a lot of fun to do, and I'm so happy with the result. I'm sorry if this wasn't much of a tutorial or, enough insight into how to create this pumpkin. But I hope you took something away from it, and I hope you learned something. I think the one thing that I took away personally and that I really enjoyed about gouache is that you can reactivate it on your paper. Once you lay down color, it's not just there forever. You can always paint over it, or you can even blend it out after it's dried. So I think that's a really cool part of using gouache, and I highly suggest that you guys all try it. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something, hopefully. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and then follow me on Instagram for even more. Hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.